Welcome to episode 310 of Intouchable iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. And I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg. And folks, we have a all-star cast to talk about the Worldwide Developers Conference 2024. Lots to cover this week, and we're going to get right into it. So let me introduce all the folks that are here this week. First off, Marty Jencius is joining us. His Vision Pro is ready to tell us about what happened with the Vision Pro, but I'm glad you're here, Marty. What's going on?
It's good to be here. As we talked about pre-show, Thursday is like the end of my heavy work week. Wednesday and Thursday are really heavy days for me, so this is like a party for me, and I get to walk among giants for a couple hours here.
A couple hours. Oh, we'll see how that goes. Maybe extended here. But also great to have him back on the show, Chuck Joyner. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm great, David. Thanks for having me. Been a very interesting week.
It sure has. Sure has. And at least you got to ease into WWDC and get caught up probably at this point. So, and got plenty to talk about. And also Ben Roethig is here. Good to see you, Ben. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah, it's me. It's always great to be here, and I'm very excited to talk this past week.
Yeah, me too. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. And like Marty, heavy day for me today. Yeah. Started off the day with the big show, and then had a bunch of stuff, and went right from that into Context Machine, wrapped that up. Nice. And no kidding, wrapped that up, refilled my water bottle, sat back down, and here I am.
Well, I'm so glad you're here for sure.
What a trooper. What a trooper.
You are a trooper, and I appreciate it, you being here. So we're just going to go right into it here because, let's face it, there's a lot to talk about. As everybody knows, I would hope, WWDC 2024, the announcements, the keynote occurred on Monday of this past week, and lots of amazing announcements, lots of great things. And what we're really going to do is we're going to just cover some of the bullet point topics of what really was what stood out. As we all know, it was iOS 18, iPadOS 18, we had tvOS 18, watchOS 11, and Vision Pro and visionOS. So we'll get some good feedback from Marty on that in a little bit here. But I want to let's talk about the keynote itself. I found it to be just a lot of fun. The intro was probably one of the best intros I can remember of date. What they did with all the team with Air Force One, Craig Federighi going on the plane, and he gets the crews together, and they're gonna skydive down to Apple Park. And what the best classic thing was when he put his helmet on, it was his Air Force helmet. It was perfectly shaped like his hair. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. And the other great cool thing was Phil Schiller was of course we know as a pilot. He was piloting the plane, pulls out his iPod, the first gen iPod. The best thing was to see the patches on his, and I didn't notice until after, the patches is on his jacket. It says Apple Park Jump Team, and then there are the AirDrops. That's the team with the skull, the skull and bones with WWDC on it. So I thought that was a lot of fun to see that. Did you all enjoy that? Because I sure did. With that intro, I thought it was pretty good.
I absolutely did. I know a lot of people get uptight about Apple having fun with their cold open sketch for keynotes. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's okay, Apple. You can have fun, and the haters are going to hate. Just keep having fun.
Absolutely.
I liked it better than most of the ones that I've seen. But what's coming out afterwards, and I mentioned this, outside of this venue, there are all these Easter eggs in it. And I saw a post today that had the numbers on the instrument panel that the plane Phil Schiller was flying, and the numbers represented the date. I think one was the iPhone came out, the first iPhone came out, and the other might have been the iPad. If you look at the numbers, it spells out the dates. So just wild stuff buried in that.
Yeah. I put a link in the show notes. It's actually from X, formerly known as Twitter, from the Basic Apple guy posted this, and he did some screenshot captures of the photos from that event. And there is that picture of the dash with Phil Schiller there. So I didn't look as closely as that they had, but that's pretty awesome to know that. They have a zoom close up of his iPod and playing a little bit of Motley Crue there, and the Air Force One helmet is there as well.
Looking at the songs on the iPod, that is just perfect.
Yeah.
Headlong Flight, Mr. Blue Sky, Jump, Start My Heart, Learning to Fly,
I love it.
Up in the Air.
Yeah, all perfect. They did well with that. So lot of funny. There's probably more Easter eggs I didn't even notice. I said, Cletus had said in the chat that he had really enjoyed some of the Easter eggs that were out there. There's probably more I didn't even come across, but I'm glad you brought those up because those were a lot of fun to go through. But I got a link in the show notes so you could see that as well. So
it feels like Alp's trying to have fun again. Pardon me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in days past, there were Easter eggs all over the OS itself that you could, and part of it was the fun part was finding them or stumbling them across yourself, even if somebody had to show you, so what, it's still there. And that kind of went away as Apple became a little more corporate. So right. I think it's interesting that we're seeing this come back in a little bit different fashion, not in the OS, but in some of the promos and some of the introductions, and we'll get to another one I'm sure that we'll mention later.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched it already, I sure hope you have, because it's worth going back and watching again. I've watched it like at least 3 times now, so I'm going to watch it again just because it was just probably, like I said, one of the more enjoyable WWDC keynotes that they've done in quite some time. So, yeah. So let's get started. And I guess unless anybody else want to add anything to that.
Nope. It was fun in about the same degree that the Mother Nature one last year was cringeworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing that was missing from the parachute jump was the guy from the Apple Car team. And as everyone else's parachute opens from above, just show him pulling his ripcord and his parachute doesn't open and he just keeps dropping.
I don't think that would have been received as well.
Probably not, but still would have been funny.
Are you kidding? The way they jumped all over crushing the Crush ad? Can you imagine what would have happened if they had a parachute not open?
You see the two people kindly gliding dound. It would be nice to see one like at terminal velocity coming down behind Tim Cook.
Well, it would have been nice to see that, but do it as a fun way where the parachute opens.
Yeah.
Or crashing through a window. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Landing on the roof of a car.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to go kind of in the order that they as the announcements came through. I want to start with visionOS and Vision Pro. Glad we have Marty here since he is a Vision Pro owner, and I'm assuming you've already installed the beta on the Vision Pro. Or have you hold back?
No, I installed it. And
why would I even question that?
But it gives me an excuse to buy a second one that's not running the beta. No, I installed it. I'm taking the risk. It took me a while to get on. I had to do a clean install because I went down a pathway with 1.2 and other people were reporting this too. So I went ahead and did a clean install on it. But lots of great stuff in it. There have been some arguments from some of the other talking heads that this should not be a 2.0. It should be a point, like a 0.3 or something like that. I think it had enough in it to justify a 2.0. And even if it didn't, I think from a marketing strategy, they had to say, this is a 2.0 upgrade. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one that I'm spending the most time with is the converting the 2D photos into 3D photos and checking which ones you can do it with, because there are some that I've tried that it doesn't work with. And then comparing it to other 3D photo generators that are inside as apps within Vision Pro. And it does such an excellent job of creating spatial photography out of your 2D photos. Again, there are some that don't work, and I can't quite figure out if it's the formatting of what's been loaded or why it doesn't seem to work, but that is really impressive. Could be the beta. I mean, it could just be the beta.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could. It's beta 1, so
yeah, it's really impressive in what it can do with photos. And then you can turn them into panoramas, which blow them up even more in your face. I don't know if it does, at least the photos that I did it with. I don't know if it creates the super wow effect, but it does have an impression when it fills your whole view space to be able to have those photos in spatial view. So
yeah. And you said the spatial photos look amazing. What did you try? Have you tried? They have multi-view in the TV app. Have you had a chance to try that yet?
Yeah. I have used that. It's great. The other piece that they introduced with Apple TV Insight, which we'll talk about when we get to Apple TV, you guys have convinced me to watch Fallout. And Fallout is a Netflix-based one, and I really got addicted to that little window in the upper right that you can click on and get who's on the show right now, who are the actors, and get background and data on it through that. And I imagine that Insight will perform the same way through Apple TV and also through Apple Vision Pro. So the multi-view, I've done that with games. It's great.
And have you done anything with the Mac as of yet? Because I know they saw some enhancements with the virtual displays for Mac.
No, I haven't done anything with the Mac yet. I'm anxious to try the environment with the keyboard, where the keyboard comes through. I've seen some posts where people are upset because it won't work on anything but a Mac Magic Keyboard or a keyboard on an actual MacBook. So, but it won't work with any other types of. From what people have posted, their frustration that at least in this beta, it's not working with anything but Apple product keyboards.
I'm assuming it's the same for using a mouse. Right now, it's just limited to Apple mice.
Yeah.
Magic Mouse.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So sounds like there's some good notable updates. The travel mode on trains was another one, and as well as I think it's got a better guest support now. Was that one other thing they mentioned?
Yeah, for me, I have to find someone in my household that actually wants to put the thing on. But besides myself,
you bring it with you at MacStock. You'll have plenty of people.
It'll get
yeah. Well, I am going to bring it to MacStock.
I figured you would.
Yeah. The thing with the guest user mode for me, I don't know if it's not like a separate account. And people have asked that question. Is this like you now have a second account on it? Nope. They're using your same account. But each time in the past, you've had to use a guest, they had to go through the hand setup and the eye setup. And it was a bit of a hassle every time somebody wanted to use it. Now that last guest is remembered. And so if that last guest is your partner in your household, they can turn it on, pick it up, it'll recognize them, and they can start to use the apps that you give them permission to use on the device. So
nice.
It's not, it gives you a choice when you're putting it into guest mode, whether they have full access or they have limited access. And I've never really done limited access with it. So it becomes something that you and your partner can fight over in the evenings if they really like the device.
Oh yeah. Anybody else want to add anything that they was impressed with them with visionOS and what they announced?
I think that guest user mode worked. Well, I think I know why they did it. Obviously, there are consumer applications, but with how much they stressed the enterprise and corporate use of visionOS, and an enhanced guest experience works very well there, especially with the announcement that these would be going into Lowe's.
Yeah.
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to say I'm terrified to go in now to an Apple store and see if they're going to do a demo of the screen mirroring for your Mac with that huge, massive, wall to wall screen, because I'm afraid that will push me over the edge into the purchasing column.
Well, I would say go in and get your demo now, because the wall-to-wall screen is not available till later this year.
He did the demo recently,
so there's still time. Yeah.
I've done that, and it was already impressive enough. And between that and you and Eric talking about it, it's like I really should be looking at this. If that kicks over that may just do me in.
Also, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
He pulled the credit card out. Yeah.
Hey, Dave. Sorry, Marty. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping on you, Jeff.
That's good.
There was something that was an announcement that seems like a little thing, but to users, it's going to be a big thing. And that is the simple hand gesture that you can get to the control center, or you can get to your home page, depending on if your hand is flat and open up and you touch. You actually don't touch, you just leave it open, and then a little button appears floating above your fingers, and you squeeze and that button clicks and the home page shows up, or you turn it over and you start to move your fingers together. And first you get the temperature and battery setting. And then if you tap it, it turns into the control center. Those movements typically to get to home, you still can reach up, touch the crown, and it would bring the home up. So, and the control center was, you would have to look up to the top, generate a little icon or an arrow that pointed down, then tap, bring it down, and then tap again to get into the control center. So this removes a lot of steps that are involved for users to get them to probably the two most crucial kinds of places they want to go when they have the Vision Pro on.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, it's definitely, they definitely did some good enhancements, but I think got a bit of ways to go at it, and we're gonna see where it goes.
All right, Dave. Here's the one thing that I'm just not seeing a lot of people talk about, and it was the camera announcements, the Canon camera lens.
Oh yeah,
and the Blackmagic design camera for doing immersive videos. When you get companies like this that are making products designed specifically to be able to produce immersive video, what that projects out to the overall community is that these companies see Vision Pro as a viable platform to invest in, and that's really big. It also means we're going to start seeing a lot more content in the immersive video format coming out, and that's going to be really important too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Canon and Blackmagic wouldn't have just done this just because. They probably have had quite a few requests from the customer base.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, you would think. All right. Speaking of Apple TV, let's move on. Apple did group this into the audio and home for a lot of the changes they've added to it. Specifically, the Insight for Apple Originals, as Marty just mentioned. Of course, they've had this on Amazon Prime Video for quite a while, but for now, it looks like it's only going to be on the Apple Originals, any of the original movies and series. But I'd probably see that they would expand upon that. What you go ahead and give what were your thoughts on that, Marty, with the Insight?
I just kind of discovered it when I was watching Netflix and thought when the announcement happened, they were going to do similar stuff with Apple TV programs. I thought, this is what I want. I mean, this is a piece that I want, because otherwise I'm opening up a separate window. I'm in Vision Pro, looking at IMDb and trying to figure it out while I'm also trying to watch a show. I will tell you that I have gotten a new love and appreciation for Apple TV Plus, because the Vision Pro really kind of drives you into looking at content. And there's a lot of great content on there.
There is. And they did, Tim Cook did talk about Apple TV Plus, and it's 5 years old. I can't believe it. I remember when we all remember when it was introduced, and boy, they really knocked it out of the park with some of the originals. And, of course, Ted Lasso was the big starter of it all, and a lot of the other programs. It was an interesting thing on Apple TV Plus. It was the ranking of original programs over the last 3 years that they put this graphic here. And Apple TV Plus was number one all 3 years. I mean, you had in 2023, Peacock was number 2, Max was number 3, and went all the way down. Hulu was number 8. So Apple TV Plus obviously is knocking out the park with its highest rated original programs. And I think all of us have said plenty of times that the content is pretty amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is. And, I don't think that you really realize how much of it is there until you see a sizzle reel like that, or you go back and scroll through Apple TV Plus. And then you start to realize just, wow, that was a great show. And yeah, I remember that. I think it has something to do with the fact that we're looking at 6 or 8 episode seasons, that maybe
Right.
we don't get quite as invested over time. And of course, then there's always the binge factor, where something is so good that you just can't wait for the next one. And then you run through the whole series and then you're done until there's a season 2, if there's a season 2 or season 3. So I think there are a lot of different factors here that are causing us to miss just how good Apple TV Plus is.
Oh yeah, for sure. It just, I need to watch more of the content. I'm bad. I'm falling way behind on some of the great content it's got. But
What a great problem to have. There's so much great content that you can't even see all of it.
Yeah.
But if you want kind of an idea of how good it is, over the past year and a half, when I was on the Mac show, and the big show too, but we quite frequently would talk TV programs. How many of those were Apple TV Plus? The majority of them?
Few.
Yeah, the majority of them.
Quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, we'll just go through a couple other notable features that they announced on the audio home side of things. You now have on-device Siri on the Apple TV. There is an API for personalized spatial audio, and they did in putting in voice isolation on the AirPods Pro. I believe it's AirPods Pro 2, and really enhancements with dialogue for on TVs and speakers and Bluetooth speakers and devices. When you mute, they put the subtitles automatically turn on. I think that was kind of cool. Many times that you have to do that, and SharePlay with the HomePod. That's a new thing. Jeff, you can tell me what your thoughts on that is, because you love the HomePod so much.
Mm-hmm.
I do have that very dysfunctional relationship with the HomePod, because it sounds great, and when it does what it's supposed to, it's really nice. But at the same time, what dumpster fire do we have to live with? So SharePlay through HomePod, great. And anything Apple can do to enhance the overall music subscription experience is a good thing. And this, I think, gets Apple closer to having a true competing shared playlist experience like Spotify has.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's a lot more. I'm not going to go into deep since we have so many other things to cover here tonight. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to iOS 18. iOS 18 had some quite notable features that have been enhanced. I've been playing around with it on my beta device, and we'll hit on Apple Intelligence here in a little bit here. But some of the things with the customizations I thought was really a lot of fun. Jeff and I had the pleasure of being at the Mac and Tech Apple user group that we worked with the folks there and did some demos, and that was a lot of fun showing them this feature, and everybody really got.
Dave, thanks
really
for being there with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had a blast, and the ability to be able to go ahead and customize your home screen layout, and just by tapping the screen there, coming up with the edit, and you can change it to different colors if you want. You can change it to dark mode, light mode, new look icons. It's really impressive from what they really added to it. Ben and Marty, I know you have beta, I know, and have you been playing around with it? You think you've been enjoying that?
I've been trying to discover things. To be honest, I got to actually playing with the control center, and was really impressed with what I could add into it, how I could manage stuff. Then that brought me back to look at Focus, and I've been playing with Focus, which there weren't any major changes in that, but noticed that was connected with my control center. I've so far enjoyed the control center. The problem I'll have, and I always have when new issues come out or new apps come out or new software comes out, is I still have that old muscle memory. So if I want to go to something, I forget that it's there in this new place. and instead go back to the old place to get it. So I'm going to have to really mentally focus on training myself to jump to the control center first to be able to get the full benefits out of it. Started playing around with Jamoji only to find out that it's really, although there's an article in The Verge about it, about how to use it, and then later in the article they say, but it's not on the beta yet, for those of you with the developer betas. So I'll have to wait for that to be able to play with it.
Yeah, I mean, Jamoji, basically what that was you had, instead of Memoji, which we introduced last year, and being able to have a set Memoji of you, and you got to customize it based on how Apple did it. You could do you could set it up yourself, and they did show a bit of a demo on during the keynote. But yeah, you're right; it's not in the beta just yet. So, and then that's a lot of these features are probably going to be at that point. So
I don't think it's actually going to be in any of the betas.
Right, it's going to probably be
after the public release.
Yeah. So they're still working on that. So, as you mentioned, the control center customization I think is amazing. You now finally can basically customize it any way you'd like and not have to go into that list, turn them on, turn them off. You go right into the control center and go in and add it right on the fly, right from the control center. So you have a lot more full control versus how you did it in the past. We currently do now in iOS 17, where you just go into the settings and go to the list and you just take it off or put it on. Now you can customize it and put it anywhere you want, anywhere on the screen. And speaking of that, we were just talking about the customization. So you now can set your screens up where you can put icons anywhere you want. You can put them down at the bottom. You can put them on the left. You can create pages that have just 2 or 3 of them. Much more customizations when it comes to that as well, which is pretty amazing. I know, Marty, Ben, you've been using that. I'm assuming I've just tried it, and it's pretty impressive. And I'm glad they finally added that. So
yeah, it's like a whole new operating system when it comes to customization.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. In iMessage, again, I'm not going to hit everything. We're going to have so much to cover the next couple weeks here. So, but iMessage, notably the text effects that jump at you, which was really cool. The emoji tapbacks were kind of cool. In Mail, we'll spend more time in the future to talk about some of the customizations there with the setting categorization. Other big feature that was announced was being able to have locked and hidden apps. So I think I heard a news story. Someone gave an example. It's like, yeah, now you can hide your apps from your wife and put it in that hidden apps, put a Face ID on it, and they'll never know you have that app installed on your phone. I'm like, okay.
That's so weird. I was thinking, oh, great. I can take my banking apps and lock them and hide them just for added security.
For security. Yeah.
Not like hide them from wife or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. What's like this is
I do,
Apple.
I do. It's
wreck your relationship.
Yeah. So
if
I've tried
you're in a relationship where you feel it's necessary to hide apps from your partner, then you need to evaluate your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff, I think you're being a little naive.
Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't Apple, the App Store prevent us from putting those kinds of apps on the device in the first place? I mean, don't they kind of prevent those nasty little apps in their App Store anyways?
They do.
You could make a web app.
You could make a web app. You could download things to a notes document.
iPhone, right?
A dating app could get you in trouble.
So
I was just thinking, more protection for my banking apps. Great. Chuck, you're right.
No, you know what? You're right on with that. I think that's a great idea.
Well, I know what I'm doing after the show, and it's not going to be protecting my banking apps since Ben has given me some new ideas.
This is a bad group. This is a bad group.
Well, we knew that going in here.
I'm just shocked at where you went with this, all of you.
That's right.
We were shocked at where you didn't go with it, Jeff.
Where you didn't go, yeah.
Of all people, you didn't go with it.
Yeah. So, all right, let me hit some more features here before we go off the rails here, like already are. messages by satellite, which is awesome. The SOS, they're saying that you now, if you're in a location where you have no service at all, obviously they introduced SOS last year for folks who got in an area where they were stranded, had no cellular service, and they needed emergency help. You could use the SOS feature to hit the satellite and request emergency services.
Hey,
Now
I learned
they've
more about that.
Okay, good. Please share.
So it actually will work as regular two-way messaging.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to.
And so the way that it was explained to me initially was that it's just an SOS thing. You can send a message to someone and they get it, and that's it. But no, it's two-way messaging. But you have to initiate the message, so it's not like you're just going to get all your regular spam messages while you're out in the backcountry away from cell signals.
Right.
So there's that.
It's pretty amazing.
You know the expression machete doesn't text? I don't go into areas that don't have Wi-Fi. So,
there you go.
So that service is not going to matter to me. If there's not Wi-Fi or cellular available, you won't find me there.
You never know. There's bad spots.
I'm the exact opposite. There are places that I go quite frequently where T-Mobile does not. So, like if I go to my uncle's cabin with the rest of my family, I will be out of cellular service for many, many hours, or will have very sporadic cellular service.
So I guess we know Marty's not going to go to the cabin with you.
Exactly. But it used to be where if I wanted to make a phone call or do a text message, I either had to walk a couple miles down the road to the park or go out in the middle of the Mississippi. Well, this will allow me to be able to send a text message and receive, do something as simple as telling people what time I will be there, or I'm not going to be around tonight. This has practical applications for real folks.
It's going to save lives.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah. I agree, Jeff. I agree. I mean, we can laugh about it, but I can tell you that, there are places here, even on the highways, where I can drive into a dead zone where I can't get anything in or out.
Right. Phone
calls or text or anything. And it sounds crazy, but it feels like it's one of those things where the cell company just decided, we can just stretch this just a little bit. And they did it just a little too far. And so you had these intermittent service interruptions and they're reproducible. So I know, like within a few hundred feet of, it's going to drop right here, or I'm going to lose everything right here, and then watch it come back in a few more 100 feet.
Yep. So other things that I want to mention was, we knew already RCS messaging support was going to happen. I did forget to mention the lock screen customization. You now can use lock screen icons from a control center, like the flashlight and others. You can customize it. It can be pretty much anywhere on the screen, wherever you want to put it, instead of as edited as it is now, where it's if you want the flashlight, it's down on the bottom left, and you have the camera on the bottom right. Well, now you can actually customize. You can customize that, which is really cool. So, anything else I missed? Did anybody want to make sure that notable we talked about? I think we pretty much hit majority of what iOS has. Again, iOS 18, but we'll definitely be hitting more of the stuff as we discover more things here. So,
but
please,
sorry,
if you have anything, please go ahead.
Yeah, just one clarification to the last one. If you replace the stock camera app on the lock screen, those apps, which, by the way, I have replaced the stock camera app and the stock flashlight app with Halide and third-party flashlight app. But the flashlight apps, if on the home screen, they get the same privileges as the stock photo app.
That's great.
Oh, nice.
That's great. So good, duly noted.
And Dave, if you said it, I'm sorry, I missed it. But
no, please.
The ability to send messages later is
yes, I did mention that. Thank you.
That to me is another super, super useful thing.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so much stuff. We try to get to everything. I'll try to get to it all. So we go down to iPad OS. Probably need to not talk too much about it, but because a lot of the features we just talked about in iOS 18 is in iPad OS 18, but the calculator is on the iPad. It only took 14 years. It's here. There's a calculator on the iPad, finally. Everybody was all excited about that, and they're like, okay, another calculator. Sorry, we lived all this time without it. But I think what Apple did that just amazed me is the scratch math feature, allowing you to be able to go to an iPad with your Apple Pencil and do scratch math. You're just like you're doing your math on a piece of paper. You're writing up the numbers, formulas, whatever it is. And when you want to total up a bunch of numbers, you put them in a row, put a line at the bottom, and boom, it totals it all up. And it works. It's pretty amazing what they
it's
did with
amazeballs
that.
Is what it is.
Yeah. And you tried it on your Mac, your iPad Mini. I did it on my 2018 Gen iPad Pro, and it works. It's those are a little slower processors than the rest of those. So
Great.
Yeah. So we're definitely something to look forward to. But pretty much everything else on the iPad, unless something else was notable to you guys, is pretty much the same as it is on the iPhone. It is on the iPad when it comes to features. But that was probably most of the more notable things. If anything I'm missing, go ahead. You guys can throw it in.
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Marty, please.
Yeah, there's just a lot of cross-platform stuff, which I think raises the value of every product.
Yeah.
And that's so, as we're going through each product, we're seeing things. I'm like, yeah, that messaging function is also a messaging function that's available on Mac OS. So It's just really cool. That was sort of my sense of it, that it really feels very connected and intentional to have it cross-product.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is.
Yeah, no, it really is. So
the one thing I'm surprised hasn't gotten just a little more attention. There's so much cosmetic customization, and taking nothing away from that, but the redesigned tab bar and popping up a sidebar with it, and the ability to customize that tab bar, I feel like that's huge, because that's something that, okay, again, all the cosmetic customizations are great, but that is something that assuming it's supported the way I think it will be supported, that's something I can see myself using almost daily, because in the sense that I will have customized that tab bar for the apps that I use. And so therefore they and the tab bar will become much more useful. So I'm excited about that. I may be the only one, but
no, not at all. I think that there's some exciting things there too. It's just amazing. It really is amazing what they've done with these OSs so far, and gained a lot of great things in here. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about where that's going to be coming as well. We're going to touch a little bit on Mac OS Sequoia, and a lot of other features are in there. I'm going to hit notably, and I didn't hit it on the other OSs, but I will talk about it in a minute here. What stands out to me the most is the iPhone mirroring. I'm just blown away how this is. You can have your iPhone sitting in your bag, and as long as you're on Wi-Fi or connected online and connected to your Apple account, this is probably one of the best features that Apple has ever made in many years. Mm-hmm. And basically, the iPhone is on your computer. So if you don't want to go grab your iPhone, you're at your Mac, you'll be able to control your iPhone completely. You'll be able to click the icons, be able to look at those things, and take a look at any of the apps right from the iPhone. Besides the fact that, of course, many of us here have done presentations in the past, and being able to, screen mirror our iPhone for presentation purposes. Well, now this has full integration to your Mac. So that feature alone on Mac OS Sequoia really stood out to me. Anybody else disagree with me on that?
No.
Oh, it's a huge thing. The thing that stood out most for me in that announcement was the fact that you can have content on your iPhone or your Mac and just drag and drop. If you're working on a document on one device, but there's content that needs to be in it on the other device, just drag it from where it is into the document, and that's it. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, you guys, notable of macOS that stood out to you?
The tiling piece, I think, is probably going to Sherlock some apps, but the tiling function is going to be valuable, I think, to a lot of users when they realize they can just pull things over and they kind of lock into a space.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, obviously, this is something that Windows has had for a while, but it's something that works and something that's functional. So I'm glad they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how it's going to work on multi-screen though. I mean, I'm working off of 2 screens here and how they will divvy that up in that process. So
yeah, I'm betting that's not going to be as elegant as we want, considering Apple has pulled out multi-screen features over the years. And I mean, like something as simple, which blew away Windows users when you do it.
Right.
Take a window and move it so it's half on one screen, half on the other. And there are legit situations where you'd want to do that. You can't do that anymore. So the limited multi-screen support we're seeing now on Mac OS does have me wondering just how elegant that will be.
Yeah.
But Jeff, do you think this could be another case of the baseline feature, let's call it, is built into the OS, and then if you want more advanced features like multiple screens or whatever, that you're going to be looking for one of those third-party solutions that may be partially Sherlock but not completely?
Maybe, but I'm not sure there are any windowing tools for the Mac out there that let you do what you used to be able to do with Windows on multiple displays.
Well, not the crossover, but I believe the one I'm using is Moom, and I can do some interesting things with Moom. You're right. You can't do that crossover, but you can do some other really interesting things that are not just interesting, but also very useful. So
yeah, the whole idea of Sherlocking something like Moom, I don't think that's going to happen because, well, and you already hit on this. There are things that you can do in Apple's provided tools that give you functionality. And if you need more, that's where the third-party opportunities come in. Right. And so tools like Moom, which do more than what Apple offers, will continue, hopefully, to thrive because the user base that relies on tools like Moom now is not the user base that would be fine with just what Apple will offer.
Yeah. And it may enlighten people as to how useful some of those utilities can be. Since it's already built in, you'll get a little taste of it and think, wow, if it only could do this. And then you look at Moom and say, yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Dave, I want to point out Apple Pay on third-party browsers.
Yeah, please do.
I think that's really important as we see people who have different preferences in browsers for various reasons. And the ability, though, to have Apple Pay in all of those, or at least the ones that will be supported. And I haven't been real clear on this as to whether it's just completely automatic or whether it's only certain browsers. But the idea that now I will be able to use Apple Pay, whether I'm using Vivaldi, Safari, Firefox, whatever, I think that's just super convenient because now I won't have to think about if I'm visiting a website and, am I visiting it in the right in the right browser, Safari, to be able to use Apple Pay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% on that. And if anything, they're enhancing another service with Apple Pay by providing that access when it comes to that. So, but the other thing I wanted to hit too is we didn't talk about is the new Passwords app. Passwords app is pretty amazing, I must say. They really have, and that's been the talk is, wow, Apple came up with this new Passwords app. It's very, very similar to LastPass and Bitwarden and 1Password. Can those apps be Sherlocked? I well, if LastPass was, I probably wouldn't complain, but but 1Password I think still has some useful things. And we talked about this, Jeff, as far as password managers goes, and we demonstrated a little bit with the Apple user group the other night too. And yeah, it's it's a very robust new version for Apple to have come up with this. I mean, they had it just as integration in the previous OSs, but now you've got a straight out application. Give us your thoughts on this password app, Jeff.
I think it's great. I'm glad it's there. And it is a huge improvement over trying to rely on keychain access.
Yeah.
It's, I think, very user-friendly. And I like that it even has an easy way to see which passwords might be compromised. It syncs across all your devices and has Windows support as well. So you can have the same password database across all your platforms. I think it's great. And as far as Sherlocking, 1Password, or definitely not. It's not gonna Sherlock Bitwarden. LastPass, like you, if they got Sherlocked, I wouldn't feel too bad, but it's not even going to happen there.
No,
People forget that the Apple ecosystem isn't the only ecosystem when it comes to apps like this. Right. The big money for products like 1Password does not come from us, the individual users. It comes from enterprise customers. So if we all walked away today, it's not going to kill AgileBits. And also, there's the Windows user base that relies on 1Password as well. So individual Mac users make up a small percentage of AgileBits customer base. They're going to be fine.
And in addition to that, I have at this point way too much invested in 1Password to be able to easily switch, especially with the passkeys. This is about giving, I mean, to use Apple parlance, this is password management for the rest of us.
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly it. And like you, Ben, I am heavily invested in 1Password. I have a lot more than passwords in 1Password.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you took it right out of my mouth. That's something that, right, as far as I know, and I haven't seen, I have not installed any betas. I don't do betas. But until Apple expands that to be able to store some of the things that 1Password does, it's not going to replace it. It will supplement it, but I don't think it's going to replace it. And Jeff, you brought up the Windows users thing. I mean, I know I've recommended 1Password to a number of people, past and present, because it is cross-platform. So they may work on a Windows machine at work, but a Mac at home, and or an iPad or an iPhone. And so once you stick something in 1Password, and if you have it installed on all those other devices, you've got all your updated passwords and information at your fingertips. So I agree. I don't think 1Password's going anywhere. Not a LastPass user. Somebody else may be able to comment on whether LastPass does something similar, or they have features that would prevent them from being Sherlock.
LastPass has features that go beyond what Apple's password app does, just like Bitwarden does.
Okay.
Right. That said, LastPass also has a bit of a interesting track record of late, to say the least.
That is the nicest way I have heard anyone put that, Ben.
Yeah. We're going to run Ben for office.
Ben, I'll vote for you.
Yes. On my platform, we'll just be spending all your money to get me top of the line MacBook Pros.
that Mac and the Mac OS runs on an iPad.
Ben, our benevolent overlord.
Ben, you could be Alice Cooper's running mate.
There you go.
Chuck, you're so close. You were so close to getting it. Alice can be Ben's running mate.
Well, okay. Yeah, it just...
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I'm going to derail that. And
sorry, Dave.
No, that's okay. Let's go to the chat at youtube.com/intouchwithios. Thanks for Guy and Brian and Cletus, and good to see you, Brett. And I'm sure many others are out there, and had a couple comments here about passwords. Brett, I agree with you. He says Apple passwords. Apple never Sherlock a third-party app. It is completely cross-platform. Agreed. And Guy said that I for one, welcome our new Apple Password Manager. And Cleus says, actually, Guy, it's a good thing that Apple brings passwords to be more current. I agree with you there on that, Cletus, as well. So some good comments. You could be joining us in the chat. We're usually recording live on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Come join us live. We have a lot of fun in the chat rooms here to interact as we do the show here. So I think we hit a lot of what Mac OS Sequoia has. It's as we all said, don't install beta on any of your primary devices. I use secondary devices. I never installed on my primary device. I'm never going to take a chance with that. We let Ben and Marty do that.
Yes, I am dumb.
And sometimes Jeff, but at least not on his iPhone.
Ben rushes in where angels fear to tread. I tiptoe.
Yeah, I'm just an idiot.
So Marty, you and me both.
So let's talk a little bit about WatchOS 11. A lot of it was focused on fitness, and that's really what the Apple Watch was designed to be for. A lot of that. Activity changes. There's a new Vitals app that actually is going to do a better job of measuring a lot of your vitals. They talked about that. I know, Jeff, you mentioned the pregnancy support, menstrual cycles, that kind of thing. That's really some improvements. Go ahead and share what you had discussed on that.
Yeah. Not having pregnancy tracking as part of the menstrual cycle tracking seemed like a huge omission for me because it's all part of the same system. And you need to be able to track all of it to have really useful information. So now you can. And it's yet another instance that reinforces to me that Apple actually has women on the developer teams for these projects, and they listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's got turn-by-turn navigations they've added. Translate app is now working on the Apple Watch, which is great. That's an easy way to get that. There's an API now. You're actually going to be able to double tap, because it was double tap to change menus. You're going to be actually going to potentially maybe get even more extended access from the developers, because there's now an API available for that. They have interactive widgets, which they've added, which is pretty neat. And yeah, I think that there was a lot of good things that was added.
Check-in. That's a
check-in
thing.
Yeah, go ahead and share that.
So we got check-in in iOS 17. Yeah, 17. So you could let your friends or family know when you're leaving a location and would let them know if you made it home safely or if you didn't. And now that's a feature on Apple Watch, which I think is great because now, well, first, if you have a cellular Apple Watch, you don't even need to have your iPhone with you to be able to do this. But it also gives you a way to discreetly send a check-in message. And for some people in some situations, that might actually be really important to be able to discreetly send that message. Another example of women being on the developer teams and Apple listening to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we've got some good stuff with Apple Watch, but I left the best for last, and that's what Apple did too. It was kind of a one more thing. This is Apple Intelligence, or AI. There was just a tremendous amount of discussion about this, and I think some people are worried about privacy and a lot of the other things that they've had. But just notably, I'll give some of the notable things that's going to be added in Apple Intelligence. You're going to get some writing tools. You're going to be able to generate images, orchestrate actions. You're going to have some personal context. But the big thing is it's going to be private cloud compute. So it's processed on device. So it stays secure. It has very good security. You are going to have an image playground to be able to play around with and do images. They have a thing called Image Wand, which is out there that's going to be able to do this. Again, all these features we aren't even being able to do this in betas right now. So this is all new stuff that Apple just announced. They're still working through it. So you have just a tremendous amount of things that you can do with AI. One of the big surprising announcements that they had was that, not surprising, I guess, because we pretty much knew, especially since Sam Altman was announced that he was at the keynote on Monday. So they were partnering up with ChatGPT and OpenAI to give users the option, that's a keyword, option, to use it. So it is ChatGPT support, so you're able to ask ChatGPT for something if they're not getting the answers that's meeting your needs, but it's an opt-in. you aren't going to be stuck having to do it. So be aware of that. We'll hit all these, get some comments here just a sec here. I just want to make sure I just kind of get through some of these features. With the Siri, you're going to be able to type to Siri smarter. You'll have in-app actions, and then it does learn over time. So that was the other big stressing factor that they talked about, is Siri is going to get smarter. We hope. So a lot of things that you can do with Siri is going to include things like going into all kinds of applications. You're going to be able to open applications, as well as be able to do things like writing notes and messaging, payments, calls, lots of things and there's just so much. We could probably spend a whole show on just this, and we probably will at some point. So I'm going to throw it out to the panel here. I'm going to start with you, Chuck. What was your first initial reactions about Apple Intelligence, and what you liked, what you disliked?
I love the idea that this is a system. It's almost a gradient system where you can go from on device to the private cloud compute to OpenAI's ChatGPT. It feels like, and again, I want to be sure that everyone understands, I have not had my hands on a beta, but it feels like I will be able to control just how far I want it to go out. So that if I really am working on something that is private, for me, and I want the AI help, I can use it on just the phone at whatever capacity that has. If that's not adequate and I want a little more, now I can take it to private cloud compute. So I love that. I love that implementation. I can't believe nobody's ever thought about it up to this point. On the other hand, I'm not sure that anybody else has the hardware on their phone that the Apple hardware represents to be able to do those things on the phone. So, and also who has server farms with M series chips out there? Only one company I know of.
Yeah.
So
only one company has M series servers.
Yeah. So it feels like Apple really is playing to its strengths and the unique assets that it has, and then folding it in as part of the product mix, but also not cutting themselves off from the idea that, hey, somebody else may have something that's better for now or for a little while or in the future, whether that be ChatGPT or one of the other large language models. So I love that fact almost as much as I just, am impressed by some of the other features that are going to be called out here.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? What was your initial reactions once they announced this?
I was really happy because Apple gets it. This is the first time I've seen a company present us with their AI roadmap where it's not about creating crappy blog posts.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking all the things that you do all the time across all your devices and binding them together in an intelligent way so that you can work more productively and so that you can access information in an easier way. The fact that context is a part of what they're doing here is huge. And this is not something that you can really do with the products that Google and Microsoft are promoting. It's not something that OpenAI can really offer. And Ben, was it you that said no one else has all the hardware to bring this all together? And that's true. You have to have the whole package. You have to have that walled garden, if you will, to make it all work. And respecting our privacy and setting up a system where the privacy of the cloud side processing can be verified, that's huge. I think Apple could have ended the entire presentation and sent us home at the end of OpenAI, of Apple Intelligence. And they didn't need to even give us the whole, and we're doing the ChatGPT thing. Because once they hit that, everything before, the other 90 minutes that we'd already had, that went out the window for the media. And their story became Apple partners with ChatGPT for AI, which is not accurate. So I get why they did it, and it wasn't for us. That was for shareholders. And you can see it's already paying off. But they didn't need to do that part. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. If I had been in charge of the whole external generative LLM integration, I would have set it up where here's what we have: Apple Intelligence. Now, for those of you that are working with other companies' products, we have made this tool that allows you to link that in so you can use those tools in conjunction with Apple Intelligence, as opposed to, hey, look what we partnered with. And but don't worry, it's opt-in, not opt-out.
Right.
And as soon as you have to say it's opt-in, not opt-out, that should be a red flag that there's a problem with what you're doing.
Right. All right. Marty, let me have you give us your insights. So you've been an AI guy, and you're going to be talking about AI a little bit. Next time,
I am excited about it. I think been listening to Jeff talk about it over shows, and one of the things that was emphasized was it needs to come from Apple's centerpiece of privacy. And I think in on device and in that contained walled garden, all of those hit the mark for me in the keynote. And as I look a little more into what's this relationship with ChatGPT, I am a ChatGPT user. I'm a paid user. So as they
can link your paid account in, which for you is great.
Yeah. And as they have explained, for the context of your personal stuff, that stays on your device. It's within the Apple ecosystem. But if you have larger world questions, as Tim put it, you have the availability, whether it's paid or a free account, to opt in and use ChatGPT's resources. There are pieces of that I've heard trying to confirm that the questions will go through Apple. Apple will make them anonymous, take the URLs out of it, send it out to ChatGPT. The answers will come back. And one of the complaints of that potential model was, well, then Apple's going to see the questions we ask. Yeah, Apple is, but the intent also is that Apple could build those questions into their own cloud computing, or answers into their own cloud computing system, so you can stay within the Apple ecosystem in the future. So I'm more excited about the big picture than the little picture. I mean, I use Grammarly to help me write stuff. That's all cool. That seems like it's going to be contextualized with Apple's AI. And so, the big stuff, the big picture, they seem to be hitting it right. So.
Yeah. And I think there's one other fact why Apple is doing this right where the others aren't. For Apple, your data isn't a product. It's not something they count on as part of their business. This is a feature to help products, not a product of itself.
Right.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting if they turn some aspect of AI into a product that is part of Apple One, if you want to call it that. For an Apple One subscription, you get these added kind of data or analysis.
Marty, you're reading my mind. Here's my hypothesis on that. Okay, so the ChatGPT partnership, the OpenAI partnership, is, from Apple's perspective, short term. Just like their partnership with Google for all the map data for the Maps app was not going to be a permanent thing either. And when Apple had built up everything to the point where they felt like they could fly on their own, then they cut out Google Maps from their map product. I think when Apple feels like they've reached the point where they don't need to rely on external generative models for what Tim calls the big world questions, then they will cut those services out, or maybe switch it to the thing where it's an option you can add it in. But Apple's version of that will become the bundled part of an Apple One subscription. So you
The
have
key too
the
is-
core Apple Intelligence, but the bigger model part, that's the part you pay for.
And the key to that too is ChatGPT, the partnership between Apple and OpenAI. They're not paying them anything. They're just a partner. It's getting ChatGPT out there even more with all the Apple users out there. So if anything, that's going to help them when it comes to this. So, but we could talk about this probably for a good hour by itself. There's just so much going on with this. None of us can try it right now. It's not going to be in the developer betas. It's not going to be in the public betas. We're probably not going to see this till later on in the fall, probably even after the iPhone 16 and the new products get released because of that. So meanwhile, we're noticing as us being investors in Apple, the stock price has gone way up since this announcement, way, way, way up. As we record this, it's trading at over $214 a share. It's gone up about almost $20 a share since these announcements on Monday. So obviously the investors are very impressed with this approach with Apple. Again, we stress that it's secure. They've got their own proprietary system they came up with for privacy with their cloud servers out there. So everything is private. I know they gave some press to be able to actually find out how Apple's doing it and what they're doing to keep things secure. And they've got a good concept. And I don't see any other company like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, or anywhere near what Apple has done when it comes to the privacy of their customers. And this kind of proves it of what they did, because Tim Cook has been on a number of influencers' YouTube channels and been interviewed, and they continue to stress, and so does Craig Federighi and all the other on the Apple team, that privacy is of the utmost importance to Apple and for their customers. And I'm proud to hear that. I'm proud to be an Apple user, and most of us here are as well, because we're using a product that we feel safe using, and not have to be in a place that's it's a problem. So, anything else you guys wanted to add on AI or Apple's intelligence? Feel free to put something through here before we get close to wrapping up.
When Siri gets smarter, I'll bless the day. Well, we've heard Siri.
Yeah.
We've heard Siri's going to get smart for a long time. So
yeah, we've heard a lot of promises, and a lot of them have not come to pass.
Yeah, this seems promising, but you're right. We have to be skeptical about it because we've seen this before. I'm hoping
Lucy with the football moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping it is, but there's that small thing that it could possibly crash and burn, but we'll see.
But you know what, David? I think it's worth saying here that Apple, we've heard a lot about Apple being behind. When you look at this, it feels like Apple is not behind. They're taking their time. They're doing the Apple thing in measured fashion, and they're not taking the cake out of the oven before it's pretty well baked, cooked, whatever it does in the oven.
Yeah.
It feels like everything else. We've talked on multiple shows about how Microsoft seems to be rushing, and we know X is rushing with theirs, Google's rushing with theirs because they feel like they're behind. Apple doesn't seem to have, succumb to that pressure. And I think that's worth looking at. I'm willing to wait. I'll play with some of the others, but I'm willing to wait for something that I can really integrate into my workflow and have it feel A, useful, and B, secure. Not necessarily in that order.
Chuck, that is so spot on. And you make me feel like, at least for our listeners, I should clarify my position on the S Lady on the HomePod. I don't feel like Apple's behind. I feel like they have failed to make a reliable product. And what I'm hoping is that when we get the updates, the public updates this fall, that Apple has improved the quality of their voice assistant to a level where I feel like it actually is a good product.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. One thing I didn't hit is I never released the mention, and I'm going to now, is compatibility to all this stuff. The you're going to have limitations of what can be compatible to all the OSs here. So I'm going to kind of go through this list. I have a link in the show notes. It shows a nice long list and very, very concise list so you understand. Starting with iOS 18, very simple. Anything from the SE, the second gen and higher. So you start from the SE, second gen, and then the 10R and up. So any iPhone you have from the 10R, 10S, 10S Max, 11, 12, 13, 14, and of course 15 iOS is fully compatible to this with limitations, of course. And we'll hit that in a minute here. iPadOS, they put some little more limitations. You've got the oldest is going to be in the 12.9 inch third generation or later. That's the 2018 model, and the iPad Pro 11 inch, which is the first generation or later. The Air is going to be the M2 and the third generation. The iPad, the basic iPad starts at the 7th generation and later, which that's fair because there's a lot of those out there. I think that's fair that they did that. And then the iPad Mini is the 5th generation and later. So, and then Mac OS, they're pretty generous with this. They did the only one that really dropped was support for the 2018 MacBook Air, which will still run on Sonoma. But you have a 2017 iMac Pro, which is impressive to be that old. The Mac Mini, which would be 2018 and later, which tells you that the Mac OS Sequoia is going to run on Intel Mac still. Same thing with the MacBook Pro, 2018 and later. The standard iMac, which is 2019 and later. So pretty much all those newer iMacs. The MacBook Air was 2020 and later. The Mac Pro 2019 and later, and then the Mac Studio is 2022 and later. So they've got some pretty good support with Mac OS Sequoia for the most part. Now, Apple Intelligence, that's a whole nother story. You have to have an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max that has the A17 Pro processor. That's it on the iPhone. So that, as far as that goes, that model will be available. And of course, when the new model gets released in September, October, the 16 more than likely will be covered. For iPad Pro, M1 and later, iPad Air, M1 and later, and you're seeing consistencies here. All the Macs is M1 and later, so every single Mac is covered by the M1 and later, and then of course you have the Mac Pro, which is an M2 Ultra. That's the only model in Pro that would work. Two more. We got the Watch OS. They're putting the end of the road on any Apple Watches beyond the SE second generation and the Series 6 and later. So if you have the Series 5 and older, you're out of luck. Watch OS is not going to be upgradable. And of course, the Ultra, both Ultra models, the Ultra and the Ultra 2 are covered. And then last but not least, the TV OS 18. Surprisingly enough, they're still supporting this Apple TV HD and the first gen 4K at 20 year that came out in 2015 and 2017. So both those models are still going to be supported in TV OS. And then you have, of course, the current 4K second gen, and not current. The second gen is the older model, and then the third gen is the newest model. So, but we're at 21 and 2022. You kind of wonder if Apple's going to have any compelling reasons to be upgrading the Apple TV. We've had a lot of discussion on that, but that's a whole other topic we could probably hit on another episode. Last thing I wanted to cover real quick was the fact that Apple did announce as part of their news release that the Apple ID is now going to be renamed Apple Account across iOS 18 and other updates. So it basically says with the releases of iOS 18, iPadOS 18, Sequoia, and watchOS 11, the Apple ID is now going to be renamed to Apple Account for a consistent sign-in experience across Apple services, devices, and relies on users' existing credentials. I guess there's going to still be some places where the Apple ID branding still remains for now, such as Apple ID sign-on page on the web, but they're going to be transitioning that, and they're going to say it later this year. So that makes sense, because I don't know what your guys' opinion is on that, because Apple ID has always been a very confusing term. Why the Apple account? The Microsoft account, the Google account. Why does it have to be an Apple ID? So what do you think, Jeff?
You're right. It makes sense just because it's the standard to refer to it as brand account. Apple saying, we're doing this so you have consistency across your devices. Apple ID was the only thing. It was consistent across all the devices. Just tell us you're changing it. I guess I'm kind of ranty about some of these things. But yeah, it makes sense to call it Apple Account.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us call it Apple Account anyway?
Yeah, it's my Apple account. Pretty much.
Yeah, I
Any
just
thoughts,
wish
Gunther?
I could pull one Apple ID into the other as like assumed and parented.
Kidding.
I've made some mistakes by typing in the wrong thing, and suddenly I'm purchasing something in my iTunes that was on my account ID and not on the iTunes ID. And I would just love to, one account to rule them all.
Which, Marty, when I heard about this, it's one of the first things I thought about. Is this a precursor to some way to merge some of those accounts? And don't ask me why it should make a difference, but if it's just a name, if there's something behind this that other than just starting to refer to it as this, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just trying to justify something, but it just feels like this could be yet another opportunity.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what kind of headaches though there would be with this, trying to merge some of those accounts. But on the other hand, we've heard horror stories about family accounts where the husband and wife get divorced, and then who takes custody of the apps. So
Yeah.
Chuck, I don't think we will ever see a way to merge accounts, and I'm basing
me
that
started.
on trying to address multiple accounts in the past, and having talks with Apple engineers, and expressing my frustration in a professional way, and they're very frank with me, and they said, "Look, we totally get that this is frustrating for a small number of users, but there's just not any interest in addressing that. And in some cases, it would be super difficult to do. For example, if you have an original iTools account that became a .Mac account, .me account, whatever, that is a completely different system, the way that was created. And they would have to engineer a totally new thing to figure out how to take those accounts and put them in with the modern accounts.
Yeah, but even the modern accounts, I mean, I utilize Gmail as my email for my first accounts before the .Mac account. I mean, after the .Mac account, and they still can't do it. And
Yeah.
And unless
Just take
something's changed, there's no interest internally to make that happen.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, just take the handful of apps I bought by mistake on that other Apple ID and move them over, so I'm not buying those apps twice.
Yeah, well, you can't. That's the problem.
Well, and look, this may be just a casualty of the fact that when all this started out, they were using one system, and it seemed like a great idea at the time, and then a better solution came along. Which one of us hasn't had that experience with software or systems or hardware or whatever? That okay, it was great at the time, but now it just doesn't pass muster. So it would be nice, but maybe they're just waiting for some of those folks to die out, and then everything will be nice and clean.
I've now seen how accurate. Yeah, it is accurate. I've now seen how it happens on the enterprise too, because when a company has to do a federation to get back their domain because an employee used an email for their personal use, and then they need to federate it, so it's part of their corporation only, and it's for their resources for anything on Apple. No problem doing that, because once they take it away, you can bring your other accounts over and merge them. There's never a problem with that, but they spend the time on that because that's an enterprise thing. So throw that as a caveat there. So, all right, I think we covered a lot of great stuff this week. What a great show! I really appreciate all you guys being here. But before we go here, I want to make sure we still continue to mention MacStock. MacStock 8 is here. It's July 12th, 13th, and 14th, 2024. MacStock Conference and Expo is going to be with us. It's less than 30 days. I can't believe it. I have to look at I didn't pull the site up here. 28 days from recording this. Crazy. So, but all of us here, Ben's going to be there. I know it. We're going to make him be there and come see us. But we want to make sure everybody is there to come see us. This is going to be an absolutely amazing event. Marty's speaking, I'm speaking, Jeff is speaking, Chuck is speaking. Chuck's been doing the road to MacStock. You're seeing more and more videos of some of the speakers, including yours truly and Jeff and Marty and all of us that are speaking on there as well. So you can find out more about the speakers. But come check it out. It's well worth it. Marty's going to be doing a workshop. That's a new thing for on the first day on the July 12th. There'll be 4 different speakers for the 90-minute productivity boosting workshops. I'm looking so forward to that. So there's 2 packages. You have the $3.99 package for the full 3 days, or if you're not want to go to the workshops and can't make it, you want to do just for the 2 days, you can go $2.99. Both packages are great. We'd love to see you. And for being In Touch with iOS, a viewer and listener, you can use our offer code, which is all one word, In Touch with iOS, when you check out. And that's going to give you $30 off the ticket cost. That's for either package. So come see us. I know everybody here is looking forward to seeing each other. It's been a while, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And you can be able to network, have a lot of fun with everybody. Get to meet new people, see people you've known before. It's just an absolute amazing experience. And this year we're at a great event at venue. It's the Holiday Inn. It's a convention center outside of Chicago in Crystal Lake, Illinois. And we had it at Woodstock last year, and we've had it in other places in that area in the past. So I think this is going to be a pretty amazing event, and we're going to be able to be all in one place. You don't have to be driving everywhere if you don't want to. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So please come check us out. MacStockConferenceandExpo.com is the website, and we hope to see you there. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastadon at intouchwithios at techhangout.social. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. Again, a shout out to Brett and to Cletus and Brian. Webb made it in today. And Guy, really appreciate everybody being there. You can be with us and watch the show as we record it, so please join us. And you can be able to see those past live streams as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped in that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, many others, but just better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 at Mastodon.cloud. And Chuck Joyner, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. As always, where can people find you?
Jeff. I'm just Jeff.
Yes, Chuck. It's been great having you on the show today.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Please tell us where people can find you.
Yes. Oh, man. I
had a good lead in too.
I need sleep badly. I really did whatever. MacVoices.com. That's where you can find me. As Dave said, we're doing the Road to Mac Stock. There are a lot more of those coming up next week, along with still some interviews from NAB and a lot of stuff in between that have to do with what's going on here. So by all means, please check it out. And on the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner. David Ginsburg, I know you're the host of this show. Thank you very much for having me. I'm going to bed now.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Marty Jencius, thank you for being here. I always enjoy having you on the show. You're always great insights to everything we talk about here. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Tuesday nights with Chuck Joyner at Mac Voices Live. You can also find me here occasionally. I love coming to the shows. And then Apple, we have a Vision Profiles podcast about Apple Vision Pro that I do with Eric Bolden, and also a couple of other podcasts, Tech Savvy Professor and Circular Firing Squad. You can find me, Jencius, at mastodon.social.
Great. Thanks so much. And Ben Roethig, thank you for being here. And I heard you're going to have a bit of a blog post about this topic this week, but where can people find you?
You can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media. As soon as this show is over, I'm going to be transitioning from a hosted WordPress site for the new RoethigTech.com just as soon as this show is over.
Nice.
On Tuesdays, you can find me on Mr. Chuck Joyner's show, Mac Voices Live. And you can also find me here what did I say? Tuesday for Chuck. And Thursday, you can find me here on In Touch with iOS with Dave Ginsburg.
Thank you, Ben. And Jeff Gamet, as always, a pleasure having you here. You're always a great supporter of the show. We appreciate you being here. Where can people find you?
Well, and thank you for letting me continue to join in. I really have so much fun. All right, social medias, Jay Gamet, and I'm active on Mastodon and Instagram and some on Threads. Then for shows, all right, hold on, people. Here we go. Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live. Thursdays on Dave Ginsburg's In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, The Big Show on Thursdays, The Mac Show on Fridays. Brian Chaffin and I also do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I have started a new show, Retro Rewatch, where we talk about shows that I should have seen but haven't, and she has, and we're having a lot of fun with that. So check that out. Hey, Chuck Joyner, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all of you listening and watching and interacting with us during the show. And we had a lot of fun doing the show this week. It was a lot of great information. WWDC is always an exciting time of year, and we always get to really have a lot of fun talking about what Apple is introducing for this year and later this year. But we hope you enjoyed it. And then we'll have plenty more to cover in the next few weeks because there's just so much we didn't even cover this week. But you've got that to look forward to. But until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.